Hello. Quick life update. We've had a lot going on over here. We are having a second baby that I'm working on growing currently, and we are moving. We bought a house, so we've been packing like crazy and just trying to get things ready over there. I am very excited to see Pistachio in a home with more windows. Poor girl only has like 2 windows in our current setup that she can really look out of. So this next house has a lot more perching points, and as you know, Havanese love to perch, so I think she's going to really like it. Okay, one of the questions that I get frequently, and I understand why, is how do you get a puppy to entertain themselves? If you've watched my Puppy Blues video, you already know how great of a desire this was in my heart to have a dog that could sort of exist without my assistance. And if you're in the puppy stage right now, you know how draining that can be, where puppies are fun, but it's not the thing that you can do all day without having your own energy meter drained and your needs not met. So how do we get puppies to entertain themselves alone? You're not going to love my first answer, but I do want you to know time helps with this. Dogs that are older, even just like an 8-month-old puppy, is different than a fresh puppy. You will find that as dogs age, they are much better at occupying their time without your assistance. And Pistachio now, who just turned 3 in February, big girl, really does not depend on us for entertainment unless it's, playtime. We have a toddler, we have another one on the way. It is possible to still have a pet in your home who loves their life but also doesn't need just constant stimulation coming from you. But when they're puppies and you're trying to find a way to have some time for yourself and to teach them some healthy independence, the biggest thing that helped me was puzzle toys. I've talked about puzzle toys before, but there's a lot of different toys out there that are meant for treats. You put treats into them, and they're not super easy to get the treats out in a fun way. So it encourages the dog to go on this mission to figure out how to get the treat out of the toy. One of our favorites is her Snoop, which we use for dentistics on a daily basis, and then there's some other toys that I've talked about in this video that are very popular with Pistachio as well. You also don't always need a physical toy. Something I do a lot with Pistachio now that she still loves is the treasure hunting game, as I like to call it, which really just means that I'll have her sit and stay somewhere. And if your dog doesn't know how to sit and stay yet because they're a puppy, they can go in their pen for a moment. But you set up treats all around the house in hidden places. Not like crazy hard places, but I like to put one under a pillow, and I like to put one up on a little bookshelf that is just within her eye view. And it's like sniff therapy. It involves their nose and their senses to find where these treats are. And for Pistachio, she loves it. She'll spend like 10 minutes just searching the whole house for treats, and she's very proud of herself when she does find one, and it definitely engages her brain and exhausts the mind a little bit. We really want to exhaust puppies' minds as well as their bodies, right? And then the last thing that really helps with puppies, especially when they're teething, going through the process of losing their baby teeth, is chew sticks. So Pistachio would spend quite a bit of time on bully sticks as a puppy. Those are a non-rawhide treat that are safe for puppies, and she could spend a lot of time gnawing on one of those. We really like to give them to her when we wanted to watch TV or read a book or something. Daddy just came home, so Pistachio has promptly abandoned me for him. So bully sticks are great for chewing, and then nylobones are something that Pistachio still loves, which are typically just sort of like a flavored plastic chew toy. Someone asked, how do you correct behavioral issues? I want to sort of define behavioral issues too, because this is such an umbrella term. But behavioral issues can be a lot of things, but they're mostly the things that we don't want our dog to do. This could be aggression, reactivity, barking, traits that are generally difficult for a dog to maintain if you're trying to coexist happily together. I say things like this often, but I want to be really clear that I am not a professional dog trainer. I'm not a vet. I don't have any sort of specialized knowledge on things like behavioral issues or dog health problems. I only have my life experience growing up with Havanese and now having 4 Havanese in my family. So I can give you some things that have worked for us, but you really should talk to a trainer if you're really seriously concerned about an issue with your dog. So I love to be transparent with you guys. You know this. Pistachio has had some behavioral issues. I think a lot of dogs do in varying degrees. But Pistachio's biggest vice has been that she can get aggressive when she doesn't like things that are happening to her. I've talked before about her having like sweater fear. That sounds like a funny thing to talk about, but like we had a lot of issues when she was spayed, putting her recovery suit on and off. When we've gone cold weather camping, we've tried to put a sweater on her for that. She's reacted really badly. I mean, I'm talking like snarling little furry demon. It really, really broke my heart the first 2 times it happened. I didn't grow up with dogs that really had aggression issues. They had other problems. They had lots of anxiety sometimes. They would bark a lot. You know, like dogs have their things, right? But to see Pistachio sort of turn on us broke my heart, and I felt like a failure about it. All I can say that's helped us with some of Pistachio's reactivity to fear, that's what I would call that, really. Like her aggression comes out of a place of fear mostly, is to gain her trust. And this looks different for every dog. The dogs I grew up with, we used to do a lot of like dominance corrections. Controversial, I think, in some dog training spaces, but we usually flip the dog if the dog was reacting poorly. So you get them on their back, so you sort of mime this pack mentality of, I am alpha, you are beta, and you need to listen to me. And it felt effective with the dogs I had growing up. We started doing that with Pistachio when we first got her. It was not effective at all. If anything, I felt like it broke trust that we had with her. So we did abandon that. And what's worked really well with her is keeping our voices really calm when she's being reactive to something, and relying on the commands that we built up with her for redirection. If she's being snippy about something, we can use our go cue to send her from the room calmly, not scarily. We're not trying to scare her, but we can send her out of the room. We can tell her off if she's on the couch. It's using commands like that so that we don't have to touch her, because the touching in that moment is going to get her more agitated. Again, you have to find out what works with your dog. What tones in your voice elicit the response from them that you want to encourage. And then the other thing that has worked wonders with Pistachio is rewarding when she's not being problematic. So when she's around a trigger and she's acting surprisingly well, then we will treat her usually, or high praise. Good girl, what a good baby, you know, things like that. And it has helped. We have a child now, as you know. She's a toddler now. She's walking and moving and grooving. Let me tell you, Pistachio's not a huge fan. We really have always encouraged the dog and the baby to respect one another and respect each other's space. We don't need them to be best friends. But inevitably, Pistachio has experienced enough times now that Nora is in her space when she doesn't want her to be, that she can be nervous if she's laying down somewhere and Nora comes over. So again, with that, it's relied on commands. I try to give Pistachio a different option of where she can rest safely. I'll usually tell her up to the back of the couch or on the opposite side of me so that she's able to be away from the baby, using my body as a barrier. And then we also are constantly talking to Nora, our daughter, about we do not touch dogs when they're relaxing. You know, we pet dogs when they come to us. And she's only 18 months old. She doesn't really understand it yet. I look forward to when she does. But it's teaching both sides to respect each other. So that's really my best advice. Really train up your dog as best as you can, because that's going to both provide verbal cues that you can use to get them out of a bad situation, but also training in general, when you have shared communication, builds trust with your dog. Trust corrects so many behavioral issues, in my experience. And lastly, depending on what the behavioral issue is, I do think it's important to remember that it is your responsibility to keep others safe from your dog. If you are concerned about an aggression issue in your dog, that doesn't mean that you keep exposing them to the same trigger when you can't predict how they're going to act, especially when people are around you that aren't family. So, I mean, as you guys know, I love my dog. I have an entire YouTube channel devoted to my dog. But because she does get annoyed by Nora when Nora's up in her space, when we have Nora's friends over, other little kids, I usually will put Pistachio behind the baby gate for the time that they're here. It's not an all-day thing, you know, it's going to be an hour or two. But she's an adult dog. She has lots of spaces that she can go to relax during that time. And for some people, they feel like they can't ever deprive their dog of anything they want. But if you are concerned about something behavioral related, you need to be a responsible dog owner. And you also want to be a good friend and be able to be present with your friends when they're in the room. And if your dog is going to be possibly a threat to their kids or something like that, or you don't know what's going to happen, you're just concerned, then it's okay for you guys to spend a couple hours apart until you can work on it in a more intentional setting. You just don't want to gamble with that. Someone asked, how do you get your dog to focus on you when you are out and about? And I would guess this is referring to things like walks. This is a hard one. We don't walk Pistachio enough for me to have a ton of experience with this. We do a lot more indoor play with her to get her exercise in than we do with walking. What has helped when we've done walks with her is if she got fixated on something, I would usually walk in front of her and face her so that she's looking at me. She has to kind of look past me if she wants to look at that other thing, but I'm kind of in her vision line, and try to redirect her with my voice or a command or a treat. The other thing you can do is switch directions when your dog starts to fixate on something or bark at something. We've done this before too. So walking, dog starts barking at a squirrel or something, and you just turn around and go the opposite direction. So you're sort of teaching the dog that, oh, when I do this negative thing, I don't get to go the direction I want to go. Like, I'm basically telling my owner I want to go the opposite direction. So that's a miscommunication. I need to fix that. Those things have helped, and with repetition, they might help you. Also, as your dog gets older, they just get less easily distracted. That part's really helpful. What do you do about picky eaters? Well, I have one. Pistachio is not a huge kibble fan, and kibble is what we can afford. So it's been a struggle for me to make sure she's eating and feel like she's eaten enough to not stress about it. Something that's been helping us a lot lately is that I stopped leaving her food out all the time. I've gone through stages where I have just kind of left her food out all the time. And I find when I do that, she just sort of gets less interested in it. She's a woman of sophistication. She likes fresh food. So we feed her in the morning, and then we feed her at night, breakfast and dinner. And I hype it up when it happens. It's, oh, you want some breakfast, baby? Let's go get you a breakfast. And then we'll sit her down for it and make her stay, and then she gets to eat it. And it feels like this very anticipated process. And I find that she does tend to eat it more eagerly when it's not just out all of the time. And then the other thing I've started doing is we typically will give her like a half cup at breakfast and dinner, but I'll start her with a smaller amount of that. So she almost gets like 2 breakfasts. I'll give her like a little bit of kibble, and she's quick to gobble that up. And then she sees the empty plate and she's like, oh, I'm motivated to eat more. And then I'll give her the other half of it. That's just kind of worked well for us. I'm not really sure why, but it has made her eat her kibble to completion more often than it used to. You can also consider doing some toppers. We've used scrambled eggs to do toppers before and things like that, but you just need to consider your dog's nutrition when you're adding anything to their food. One person is getting a new puppy and they want to know what they can do from the start to keep their dog from jumping up on guests or from licking faces. All I can tell you is that all starts at home with your daily routines. If you want a dog to act a certain way with guests, you have to practice how they act with you. If you don't want your dog to jump up when guests come over, then when you come home every single day, you can't let your dog jump up. And it's a really hard thing because if you're like me and my family, we like when Pistachio jumps up on us when we come home. We like to be greeted by her, and we have been inconsistent because we have family members who hate when she jumps up on them. But we can't ask her to do 2 things, really. We have tried, and it hasn't worked. So if it's really a big value for you that you don't want your dog jumping on guests, when you come home, you need to ignore them if they jump up on you and respond more positively when they have 4 paws on the ground and they're saying hi. Similar thing goes for face licking. If you let your dog lick your face, they're going to lick guests' faces. The daily routines you have are going to mimic what your dog does around everybody else that enters your home. I have had a lot of people ask about potty training and crate training, and I do have some videos that talk about those, so you can check those out here. The last question is, have I noticed personality differences between girl Havanese and boy Havanese? And I have. So now throughout my lifetime in my family, we have had a split 3 girl Havaneses and 3 boy Havaneses. So I feel like I have a pretty good focus group there to look at. This is just what I've seen, okay? I'm not saying this is grounded in science. This is just what I've seen. Our boy dogs are all more cuddly, and they also are more prone to separation anxiety. They're just clingier in general. Our girl dogs are all more playful and silly, and they can tend to be a little bit more dominant and aggressive. What I'm not saying is that all boy dogs or all boy Havanese have separation anxiety, or that all girl Havanese have aggression issues. No. I'm just saying I've seen this on either side, that all of our girls are more dominant than our boys. When we hang out with all of our dogs together, they're always the ones bossing the boys around. And then the boys are just always so much more stressed out when they are left alone than the girls are. As far as if girl Havanese or boy Havanese make a better like family dog, the two dogs that I had throughout my childhood were a girl Havanese and a boy Havanese, and both were excellent family dogs. They're just two very different dogs, but both were great with kids and just the most fun to have in our family. Okay, that's all the questions I have to answer for now. Thank you for watching. It's good to get back to posting here, and thank you so much for your support and watching my videos, and I'm so glad they've helped so many of you with your own puppy journeys, and I hope that they continue to do so. Bye.